testimonials around. And I was thinking to myself, what do I keep hearing? What do I keep hearing? People, they say, oh, I did this. I decided to do this. I decided to do it. The one thing that kept coming up was that they decided to make a change. So as much as I can set this book in front of you, I'm going to tell you it's the best book in the world. I can tell you to lose weight. I can tell you to sit up straight, put your feet flat on the floor, and I can tell you to eat your broccoli with your dinner. I can't make you do that, can I? I cannot make you. Unless we come up with a taser idea, which I like, okay? It's a collar that tests your blood glucose levels, and when it goes up too high, it zaps you, which I like, and that might be our next invention. But until then, the change comes from you. It has to start inside of you, and that's the most important thing. That's what we get out of it, all right? Now, there's a couple things that happen when you want to make a change, right? How many people have tried to make change in their life? How many people have failed at it? Yes. How many people said, I'm going to set my alarm clock 10 minutes early so I can get up and run before I go to work? Failed at it, right? Definitely. I've been there. I've done that. I know exactly what that feeling is like. There's a lot of things that I've tried to do that I've started, and I try and get the wheels going, and the next thing that I know, I fall down, and the best thing you can do is get back up, right, and do it again. Somebody told me that. I think it was my dad a long time ago, or maybe I read it in a book. I can't remember. But the most important part is that you get back up and you try again. But you can't do the same thing, can you? What does Albert Einstein say? What is insanity?
Doing the same thing over and expecting
different results, right? You can't do the same thing. You've got to change your approach, right? So when you want to make a change in your life, there's one thing I'm going to ask you to do, and it starts with focus. I'm driving down Route 7. I take a right onto I-89. I take a left onto Dorset Street. I drive past the University Mall. I hit Williston Road. I take a right. Wave to body resolution as you go by. Take a left on Industrial Ave. Go through 2 sets of light. Take an immediate left. Drive up the hill. I go down the hill. I take a right onto Crowley Street. I take immediate left in a parking space. How many cups of coffee did I have today? 0. How many right-hand turns did I make?
4.
4? Someone guessed close. Anybody else? All right, right. Focus on right. Focus on right. All right, I'm driving down Route 7. I take a right onto I-89. I drive straight down I-89. I take a left onto Dorset Street. Go past the University Mall. Take a right on Williston Road. Wave to body resolution as you go by. Take a left onto Industrial Ave. Go through 2 sets of light. Take an immediate left. Go up the hill. Go down the hill. Take a right onto Crowley Street. Take a left into your parking space. How many left-hand turns did I make?
3.
Everybody got right. Everybody got right? But nobody got left. The thing is, life comes at us fast, right? There are so many different things that happen throughout a day, right, that can distract us from our fitness, from our well-being, from the things that we need to set in front of us. Does anybody experience that? Just like the left and right turns, you have to have it focused. And you got to know what you're focused on, right? If I don't know what I'm focused on, I'm going to wake up every morning, I'm going to do the same thing over and over again. If I wake up in the morning and I have that little Post-it note that says, James, stop being so lazy, right? Then I'll know what I need to focus on. And it can remind you to steer you back in the direction you need to go to. All right? So focus is number 1 for change to take place. Now, there are 3 things that have to happen with change, right? You have to direct the rider, you have to motivate the elephant, and you've got to shape the path. What is he talking about? Elephants and riders? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody ever read this book, Switch? It's an awesome book. I've read it probably 30 times, at least, and still reading it. Every lecture I do, I read it again, right? They're all about how you make change in your life, a positive change in your life. And what they do is they highlight all the examples throughout time that they've seen change happen. And then they say, okay, well, let's break it down a little bit more. Everybody knows I'm a science geek, right? Everybody should know I'm a science geek, all right? I love science. So I break everything down as small as I possibly can, and then I build it back up. Change is the same way. That's why I love this book. They take something that is an emotional challenge for people, and they break it down into a scientific format, which I love. Right? It gives me the ability, the base, to move forward with whatever change I want to make in my own life. So, with that being said, the elephant and the rider. What does that mean? The elephant is our emotional side. Right? Has anybody heard this before from my past lectures? You better say yes. Okay, good. Got 1. You can go home now. That's a paid day off. Sorry. The elephant is the emotional side of our body. It's very powerful. It controls a lot of what we decide to do throughout the daily basis. Then there's the rider who steers the elephant, right? It's our rational side. That's the side that says, in 12 weeks, like the 12-week challenge, I want to lose 10 pounds, right? It's planning, it's organizing, and it's steering your emotional side. Now, what happens when your rider gets tired? The emotional side takes over. Now, everybody's had this before. At least, if you haven't, then you'll probably experience it sometime in your life. But you get home from work, and you're thinking to yourself, I just started that 10-pound diet crap that he was talking about, right? And I'm gonna look through my cupboard, I'm gonna eat something healthy, and you get home from work, it's been a long day, you've been stressed out, and you see a bag of chips. And you grab that bag of chips, and you sit down on your couch, and before you know it, you ate the entire bag of chips. Has anybody experienced that? Okay, maybe it wasn't chips, maybe it was cookies, right? Maybe it wasn't cookie, maybe it was ice cream, right? Could be other things, could be alcohol, could be cigarettes, could be whatever it is, right? But we fall into that trap. That's our emotional side taking over the rational side. Now you wake up the next morning, right? You've had some time to rest. Your rational side had some time to regenerate and control where you're going again. And you say to yourself, why the hell did I just eat all of that last night? What happened? I got home one night. I remember I was working for a lecture, and I was thinking to myself, oh, I've been eating really well. And I for the most part, I eat pretty healthy. And I get home, and I think to myself, okay, there's nothing in my cupboards. If you guys came to look in my cupboards, you'd be like, what does this kid eat? Right? It looks like a poor man's house. Right? But I don't buy anything. I just buy the bare basics. Well, this time I had pita and hummus. And I was so hungry after having my salad that I ate pita and hummus. It's disgusting. I don't like that. I don't know if anybody else. Does anybody like pita and hummus? Oh, I got a few. Okay. If you threw some cheese in there, I'd be okay with it. But I caught myself eating pita and hummus. I woke up the next morning. I was like, why did I eat that? You know? But then I realized I was stressed out from my lecture. That I'd been working a lot. Been working at the gym a lot. Right? My rider was tired. Before I leave the gym, typically I eat a couple almonds and I drink a protein shake almost every day. And the reason I do that is exactly what happens at that when I get home. Because after I eat my salad, I think I need to reward myself. I think I need to get something special for me. Right? That might be a drink. Right? It might be a cocktail after hours or whatever it is. It could be some sugar. It could be ice cream, whatever it is. But so you have to see, like, it's a crucial element to our psyche to understand that there is an emotional side and there's a rational side. And they have to be balanced in order for change to take place. If you don't have them balanced, one will always take over the other. Any questions? No? Good. All right. So the second thing, anybody ever heard of Clocky? It's one of my favorite inventions from an MIT student.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
You're right? Okay, so Clocky, great. It's a genius invention. It's an alarm clock with wheels on it. Ah, yeah. Yeah, now people get it. You know when you're especially in Vermont, when it's cold, the winter, and you're sleeping and you're snuggled up underneath the covers, and like me, I keep a fan on because I hate other noises, so I always have a fan blowing it the whole time. And you wake up in the morning and it's freezing outside and you're so cozy in it and you're like, oh, I really need to get out of bed, but instead I'm gonna hit snooze. Well, this evil alarm clock, when you hit snooze, it drives off your nightstand and around the room, flashing lights and playing until you get up in your tighty whities and go grab it, freezing, so mad, probably throw it across the room, right? But they understood, this MIT student knew that there's two sides to the human psyche, right? There's the emotional side, that's when you're cozy, you don't want to get out of bed, right? And then there's the rational side, says I need to get up 10 minutes early. Well, this thing played for both, and it worked, right? They're very successful. Now they have another one, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's a little round one for children, and it's like a bouncy ball, and it bounces all around the room with lights. It's genius, genius. So you can see that they understood this at an early stage. Now, you take, for instance, this same group of people that did all these studies here, they decided to test some movie theater goers. Anybody ever been to the movie theater? Anybody ever got popcorn? Yeah, all right, we all know that movie theater popcorn's the best, okay? It always is. Well, they came in and they said, well, do you mind taking a survey about our concession stand? Of course, people were like, well, maybe. And they said, well, you get a free bucket of popcorn and you get a soda. What do you think they said? Yeah, that's like $47, right? You just saved a lot of money, right? But not only that, but they pre-engineered the popcorn and they pre-engineered the buckets, right? So now these buckets are oversized, huge, extra large, big as you can do. You could dump out the popcorn, set it down, fill it with water, and children will come play in it, all right? So huge buckets. And then they had a medium size, which was also a huge bucket, but just a little bit smaller. And then they gave them large sodas, which is kind of normal, to help wash it down. The popcorn was stale. It was left out for 2 weeks. It was also oversalted, right? So they knew it wasn't a taste thing. Right? They wanted to eliminate any factor that could possibly happen. People go into the movie. After the movie, they come back out. What did they discover? People who had larger buckets ate 55% more of crappy popcorn, stale, squeaky popcorn. Nobody wants to eat that. People with the medium-sized buckets ate less. That's interesting. The ones with the larger buckets dipped their hands 27 more times than the people with the medium buckets. People with the larger buckets ate 173 calories more than people with the smaller buckets. Same popcorn, right? Just different size container. What do we call that?
Portion control.
Portion control, mindless eating. There is no sense behind the eating. It's just sitting there putting food in our mouth. That's the emotional side taking over. When I go to the movies, I want to let go. I don't want to think about anything. Anybody been there? That's why we go to the movies. You don't want to think about anything. You sit there, you've got your popcorn right in front of you, and you just start eating, right? You're full. You might have had a meal right before. A lot of times I go out to dinner, then I go to the movies and I eat my popcorn. I don't do that all the time, okay? And don't let that out of this room, all right? Don't let anybody know, especially the trainers, please, for anybody that's going over there. But the point is that we have to understand the two different sides and how it works. And these studies have been out. And it's really fascinating to me to break it down to that level. So you say to yourself, well, you just saw the video, right? All these people are in their own stage of fitness, right? Because there is no one type of fitness. I mean, having a six-pack's great, right? But that doesn't mean you're in shape, does it? That doesn't mean you're healthy. Being able to, the strongest guy in the gym, strongest girl in the gym, does that mean you're in shape and healthy? No. No. Each of us have our own stage that we have to accomplish. So we have to make a change. Right? And by making the change, we have to understand that there's the emotional side and then there's the rational side. All right, so we move on from there. What does that mean? Motivating the elephant. When you want to motivate an elephant, what do you do?
Put a peanut in front of it?
Put a peanut in front of it, right? You gotta shape the path. So, that's true though. That's true. I mean, that's exactly. Your emotional side has a certain amount. Has anybody ever gone on a diet for like, let's say 20 days, and they've said, I'm not going to have any sugar for 20 days? After 20 days, what happens? Maybe 10 days into it, what happens? You have lots of sugar. You binge. What are you doing?
Satisfying craving.
You're satisfying craving. That's been building up over time, right? So we have to pick something that works for both of them. And that's why I wrote this book, to be totally honest with you. Because everybody that I see, when they go to do nutrition, when they go to do a plan, they say, okay, I'm going to eliminate carbohydrate. Okay, that's great for a good 2 weeks, but then what's going to happen after that? When all your glycogen is gone, you've depleted all your muscle mass, what's going to happen after that? Right? You have to think farther ahead. So if you don't satisfy that emotional need, your elephant, through the stages, right, at the end of it, you're just going to go back into the same pathway. It's changing your diet, changing your path, changing your plan is a slow, methodical step. Right? You have to take time to do that. Take time to do that. So there's really 3 basic principles for the book that feed into the emotional side and the rational side, right? The 3 basic principles we have, how you doing? Good. The 3 basic principles we have is the glycemic index, right? Acidic blood versus alkaline blood, and glycation of a protein. Sounds very advanced, doesn't it? Now, some of you have heard me talk about the glycemic index. Does anybody remember it? Grab my markers. Nobody? Whew. No, that's not true. Didn't they say all answers are good answers? Did somebody say that? No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. So what we have here, let's talk about this. This is your bloodstream. Does anybody remember this? Start talking about this? There's a cell. Here's an attachment site for a cell. This is a graph. This is your insulin level. Your glucose level. And that's what 90 milligrams makes you happy. This is the most important part behind losing weight, behind eating healthy. The most important part. This is why I draw it out every time, because I can't tell you enough how important this is. I have a high sugar product. It doesn't even have to be, let's say I have an apple, a full apple, all right, with nothing else, no other protein, just an apple, all right? It causes all these little G's to open up in here, opens up a channel, causes an I, which is insulin, to bind to the cell, right? Insulin opens this channel, and it gets stored as fat because I'm not doing anything. I'm actually sitting at the desk. Okay? So it gets stored as free fatty acids. Now on this side, you have your brain and your muscle that need fuel. How do I get the glucose not to do this so often? Bind to the cell, right? Immediately allow glucose into the cell, allowing free fatty acids to be stored. I take in another sugar product. Say it's a Diet Coke. We've talked about that before. Everybody remembers my Diet Coke story, I hope. More insulin comes around. Now the cell has an affinity for insulin. Does everybody know what that means? It loves insulin. It loves it. Really loves it. It's always attracted to it. And then there's glucagon, which is insulin's archenemy. Right? Glucagon binds to the same binding site that insulin does and allows free fatty acids back out into the bloodstream to be utilized by the brain and by the muscle. Every time that I take in glucose in my system in a high amount, let's say a sugar product, let's say a bagel, right? I get a glucose spike. It looks something like this. Heard people talk about that? Yeah. Well, that's really important because as soon as it goes up here to this point, insulin then comes up. Now, insulin's a hormone, so it takes 3 to 4 hours to be reabsorbed back into your body. Right? So when insulin takes 3 to 4 hours, that means when it comes down here, it starts coming down, then it goes back up. Then it comes back down, and then it goes back up. And then it comes back down, and then it takes 3 to 4 hours after you've finished your last high-sugar meal or processed food or whatever it is meal. Finally comes back down. Now let's say this is the end of my day, right? And I decide to work out here. Before my insulin gets below the 90, what happens? Do you utilize free fatty acids as fuel source when you're working out? No, you don't. That means everybody that goes and does their cardio right after they just had a little Snickers candy bar, those little, everybody has them at their desk, the little jar with little tiny Snickers on them, right? Pop one of those things, next thing you know, your insulin's up for 3 to 4 hours. And that's all it takes is that little tiny piece of Snickers. That's all it takes. It's amazing. Questions on this? I see a lot of confused looks. All right, so what does a nutritionist tell you to do? They say, don't eat high sugar stuff, obviously. Don't eat refined carbohydrates, obviously. And eat frequently. Why do you want to eat frequently? It's like this. Right? Always staying right around that 90. Insulin doesn't have the ability to go up, 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 up. It just goes like this, kind of right around that same area. Every time it's dipping down below, glucagon binds to the cell, allows free fatty acids out. This is why that one lady said, before I knew it, I was losing 10 pounds. She finally got this system in her body to work. The most important system you can ever take away from this. That's what this book does. Right? What I'm trying to do is say these are the food groups that will help balance out your insulin level, balance out your glucagon level. Right? And that's the key to it. That's the key. So if you understand that, it's basic biochemistry. If you understand that, you will be very successful in your nutrition journey. All right? The next thing we have to do is talk about acidic and alkaline foods. Anybody heard of that? They call it an acidic ash. It leaves an acidic residue. Yeah, you've heard of it, right? You're on a plan right now, right? You guys talk about the balancing of those two things? There's a whole section in here about acidic and alkaline foods, what to pick, how to pick them, which ones do you do, right? Acidic foods cause an acidic ash, and acidic ash causes your blood to become more acidic. And when that takes place, cells die. Do we want cells to die? No. Yes! No! No, we do not. We do not want cells to die. And when cells die, there's other things that happen. It releases more acid into the system. It causes more death of more cells. Cells have a very short pH range that they can survive in. Anytime it goes too high on the alkaline side or too low on the acidic side, that cell dies, right? Because they have a phospholipid bilayer. My balloons, all right? They have a phospholipid bilayer. This is a great example of what a cell would be like. This cell particularly has been a bad cell and eaten too much food, okay, which is why it's bigger than all the other cells. So there's a lot of adipose tissue in here, which is fat. All right? Once the adipose tissue goes in, it pushes out fluids from inside the cell. All right? So now this cell goes into an acidic state. Say you were eating, say you had a lot of coffee. Right? Let's say you had a lot of processed foods like pizza. All right? Things like that will cause it. So it goes into a acidic state. You guys ready for this? It's going to wake you up. All right, is everybody wake up? All right, I have to hold this close. Goggles, safety glasses. This is what happens when it goes into an acidic state. Not bad. I didn't blow it up too much. Not bad. So, the cell dies. It releases more acid. More cells die. Now, this is a normal cell, but it's dehydrated. So I had a bunch of coffee. I didn't drink a lot of water throughout the day. I might have worked out, right? Maybe then I had a protein shake. It has a lot of protein in it. 4 grams of water have to bind to every protein that you take in your system. So now you're dehydrated, right? Normal cell, and it goes into the same acidic state. Not too bad. Not too bad, right? Takes a little bit longer because it's a normal cell, has a little bit more hydration. Now let's do the tricky part. And we have a water balloon. Normal cell. Mr. Joe, would you please accompany me at the front? All right?
Don't mess up the hair.
I will not mess up the hair. Take a seat. We'll have your face. This is a water balloon. This is a normal hydrated cell, okay? It should burst when it gets into the acidic state, as you've seen, right? You should? Shouldn't? Should we test it on you? I've never done this before. This is brand new, okay? So we're going to try this now. I haven't used these balloons either, so we'll see what happens. I want everybody to count with me. We're going to try and make it to 15. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And he survives. Give him a round of applause. Hydrated cell, right? Same phospholipid bilayer, goes into an acidic environment and survives. That's pretty cool, right? That's really important to us because the more cells that die, the more acid that's in the system, the more your body stores fat. Why? Anybody? It has to protect all the organs, doesn't it? So if it recognizes that your blood is becoming acidic and cells are dying all around it, and it says, hey, this is where I live, right? This is what keeps me ticking, right? It says, guess what? Let's take this fat, right? And let's take this acid, put them together. Sounds like a good idea. We'll put them inside of a cell, right? Put them away. That's why some people say, I can't lose that last 10 pounds because their blood is acidic, right? So it's important that you follow those guidelines to find acidic or alkaline state. All right, the last thing is glycation of a cell, or glycation of a protein. Now this happens when you take in sugar. All right, so it's when you're at the top phase here. That's your glucose spike, right? And glycation of a cell is kind of like what's that reaction called with sugar when it gets heated up? Do you know what I'm talking about? The browning, the enzymatic of the, what is it? Caramelized, yeah, like when you caramelize sugar, it's the same thing that happens. Say you have this happy cell right here, right? And you put it into, let's say, an acidic state with high sugar. What happens is the walls become sticky all the way around. And when they bump into another cell, they actually stick together. Good or bad? Bad. Bad. Really bad, right? Because cells need oxygen. Now you start getting a bunch of these clumped up. Now in most cases, this happens to a protein. What do proteins do in our body?
Fuel us.
Fuel us. They fuel us. What else do they do? Very, very important for living. They carry out enzymatic reactions. They're catalysts. Obviously, guys, basic chemistry, right? They carry out enzymatic reactions. Why is that so important? Say a cell needs to open up a channel and allow fuel into it. Protein does it. Now, if a protein has another protein bound to it, stuck side by side, can it do the same thing? No. This is why we feel tired, right? This is happening in our system at all times, right? 75 trillion cells in our body working at all times. 75 trillion cells, 30 million of which are dying every 30 seconds. That's a scary number, right? So our goal is to support these three different things as much as we can. We have to understand that we have to take in low sugar products, low processed foods, right? We understand now why a spike is so dangerous for us. Now we know not to work out after we had a piece of candy or anything high in sugar, right? Which most people aren't doing. We also understand that what an enzymatic reaction is when it has glycation of a protein, right? We know that the proteins are going to bind together. It's going to slow our system down. It's going to make us feel tired and lethargic. And we now understand acidic, that we want to make sure that our cells are hydrated. We take in foods that are alkaline. This is all covered in here. Okay? The very first part of this book is talking about the chemistry, which we just went through. I think those are the most important things. It just talks about that. Then it goes into calculating your resting metabolic rate. There are different calculations out there. So you can test around different calculations, but you can calculate your resting metabolic rate. Once you find your resting metabolic rate, it will say minus or plus, or it will tell you what to do. And then you pick a diet plan in the back. Does that mean you follow it 100%?
No.
No, you do not follow it 100%. I do not believe in following things 100% because I think each diet has to be specifically made for you. Right? Each person is different. We each have different emotional controls, triggers that set us off. So it's really important that when you go on through the book, you're like, okay, you know, I understand the chemistry part, and then you're going to do what I do. I skip to the back, and I look and, oh, okay, this diet looks pretty good to me. I'll try that one today. I don't want you to do that. Don't do that. Try and do the 12-week plan. And the reason there's a 12-week plan in here is because it takes time to change habits, right? We're all talking about making a change today. Now, how many people want to make a change now? All right, good. So there's sheets on your tables. since almost everybody does, I want you to write down, and don't make it personal, as a team, each table is a team, I want you to write down what each of you want to change. And then I want one person to tell the group what they're going to change. Why are we doing this? Group buy-in. When you walk in, you see you got it, all right? When you walk in the next day and they say, hey, how was that challenge going? Or how's this going? And I hope everybody writes a 12-week challenge, but I won't put any pressure on you, okay? But have one person write down, you guys get together as in your groups where you are, and just say what goals you have that you're going to try and change, or going to try and establish. Team, go. Break. Jeez, what time is it?